lies, and this is No One Asked Her, where we speak the truth anyway. This is part 2 of my incredible conversation with IDF soldier Eli Wininger, who recently got home from being deployed in active duty in Gaza. The stories he has from being on the ground in the war are just phenomenal. They will enlighten you, inform you, and open your heart to truths that no one else could talk about except somebody who's been on the ground, living every day in combat. Our conversation goes deep into the spiritual truth behind war and why we're seeing so many people fooled by the enemy's lies. I can't wait for you to hear the second part of our conversation.
Do you think there's any way that as an IDF soldier that you can, if you could implant in every person who's been sort of their mind has been corrupted by the terrorist agenda and the propaganda machine that's been feeding all these lies to the mainstream media and therefore millions of people for the last few years, what's one message that you think, you could share from your heart that you would be able to possibly make a difference in opening theirs to understanding that they've been brainwashed?
Good question. And there's so many ways to answer it. I'm trying to, how much time do I have to answer this? I think one, realize that Israel is an army made up of proudly Jewish people, and Jewish faith is based as Judeo-Christian values. And every single IDF soldier that I know is not going in with this bloodthirst of killing every Arab or Muslim that they see. We're going in with the idea and the desire to defend our land and to defend our people. So first and foremost, it's the reason of fighting. I don't want to say it's the desire of fighting, because no one wants to fight. We don't want to be in there. We want to go on and live our lives.
Yes.
But the reason for fighting is to defend our people. And we're doing that being led by these Judeo-Christian values that all of us have, and most of us in the Western world have been raised on. And that's what's leading every decision. No one wants to kill innocent people. And one particular anecdote that I can say is, give me a 1 or 2 minute tangent here, but we were in this house and we had been there for a few days, and this was in Gaza about 1.5 years ago, and we were overlooking a road. No one was allowed to cross that road. Across the street was a building that there was Hamas activity in. We knew that there was Hamas activity in. Hamas terrorists had been seen in there. And in general, the IDF hadn't crossed this area, hadn't crossed that road yet, so we needed to secure it, but we also needed to make sure no one was going into that building. One of the guys who was, and Israel had been in the general vicinity already in war for a month, and we had cleared out that particular area in terms of we've sent text messages for them to evacuate. We'd sent leaflets, dropped them from the sky for them to evacuate, dropped dud bombs, which is just a loud noise, doesn't do any explosion, just makes a loud noise, hey, we're about to come. All that had happened weeks prior. IDF tanks, soldiers had been in the general area. Very standard practice. Only in the IDF, must I say. Only military in the world is that standard practice.
I believe that, yes.
But we'd already done that weeks prior. Then we were present in the general area. So if you were innocent and you started getting scared and, hey, okay, they're actually here, they're actually coming, come out with a white flag. All that happened. And then our most right-wing person on our team, the guy who was raised in Judea and Samaria, also known as the West Bank, who has the most right-wing beliefs, who I see as an extremist, but I still love him, but we have very, very different opinions. He was the one on guard duty for that particular sect when he had his gun on the trigger and he was a sharpshooter, and there was a woman and a child crossing the street. And if he wanted to, he could have shot and claimed whatever he wanted to claim. And when the finger's on the trigger, no matter how far your beliefs are, his Judeo-Christian values, his knowledge and understanding of what's right and wrong and what an innocent person is, there's no way he could pull that trigger, because he knew that they were innocent. He knew that they were good people.
Yes.
And then what happened? They did walk into the terrorist building that we knew was only terrorists. So there's some sort of complacency there. The day after we went into the building that they came from to go search what the hell they were doing there and why they were there, inside the building, we found an IED, a mine, massive one. I was inside the room. All of my teammates were inside the room. To our luck, the wire wasn't connected properly.
That's what they'd been going into that building.
Probably. I don't know.
Wow.
But they were innocent. They were unarmed.
Okay,
Well, innocent,
yes.
quote unquote, but they were unarmed. We saw them as unarmed civilians crossing a very dangerous road, heading directly into a very suspicious building. He didn't shoot, no matter how extreme his beliefs are, take his political beliefs as anything, he didn't shoot. And those people ended up planting a mine that was intended to kill my team going into that building the next day.
That is absolutely
and because
insane.
of pure luck,
Yes.
I'm here today.
What happened that mine didn't kill all
The
your
wire
team?
wasn't connected.
Oh my goodness! So it was literally.
So
like,
if it
yes.
was connected, we took we removed this blanket to see what it was, and we noticed that the wire wasn't connected.
So it was just
the
like a
wire had been
technical
connected.
error of.
If the wire had
we
been
wouldn't be
connected, that
talking right
wire
now.
was probably connected to them, and they probably saw us in that building and probably were pushing the thing for us to
Yeah,
get
that's
exploded. But
absolutely
because it wasn't
insane.
connected properly,
Yeah.
I'm still here standing
Yeah,
today.
thank
I
God.
wouldn't have been with a missing leg. I would have been in 30 different pieces if that wire was connected. So that
yeah.
person chose to not shoot an innocent child and woman who ended up not being innocent. But the IDF isn't blatantly killing innocents.
Of course not.
And there's a
yes.
very gray area of what is a combatant and what is a civilian in Gaza, because they're dressing civilians up, well, not even dressing them up, sending civilians on military operations.
Yes, and they like you finding the copy of Mein Kampf in
Totally.
Arabic in the school. They literally teach their children
Totally.
to hate Jews and Zionists, and
Totally.
they from my understanding, they actually get rewarded for killing Jews.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like monetarily rewarded.
Yeah, there's
So,
a direct connection.
yeah.
The better. We went into numerous buildings inside Gaza, and I'd say 90% of the buildings we went into had some sort of Hamas affiliation. Whether that means we found uniforms, Hamas uniforms folded in the closet, whether that means we saw, we found intelligence documents, we found guns, munitions, RPGs like rocket launchers, tunnels inside the home or the building or the backyard.
So it's
90% of the homes had something.
90%.
90%.
That is so ingrained in the culture.
Totally.
That it's almost like how do you even differentiate?
It's very tough. And it
Yeah.
basically means doesn't mean that the whole family is Hamas, but if the brother's Hamas, the rest of the family
Wow.
probably supports him. And also to Israel's credit, they
Yeah.
probably were sending us into homes and buildings like intelligent. The
Yeah.
IDF intelligence was probably good in sending us in, they're not sending us into random buildings, they're sending into the right
Yes.
buildings. So I don't want to say 90% of all of Gaza is Hamas affiliated, but at least
But
the ones
from
we
what
went
you
into.
saw,
But the
yes.
other thing is that there was a direct correlation that the more we found, the nicer the home. So if we went into a really nice home, we knew that there was going to be a lot there. And this wasn't
That's
something we went into
crazy.
knowing and started searching more.
Yeah.
It just so happened that we're like, there's so much here.
Because of that
If you wanna be
monetary reward
If
for
you want to be rich in
killing-
New York City, go into finance. If you want to be rich in tech, or in San Francisco, go into tech. LA, Hollywood, Gaza, join Hamas.
That is creepy.
That's literally
beyond,
what I learned.
Beyond.
And
yeah.
you're financially rewarded in Gaza to do that.
That is like the clearest path to
Crazy.
wealth in Gaza
Is being a terrorist.
Is being a terrorist.
Yeah.
That-
And now you see why it makes sense for them to
the clearest path in Gaza to wealth is being a terrorist. And
100%.
you wonder why, like, the whole narrative is then twisted
Yep.
so that the free, democratic, God-loving society of Israel is then somehow demonized
Yep.
for defending itself against those literal terrorists.
Yep.
It's like you can't really wrap your brain around the logic other than people are being deceived on a mass scale.
Yep.
Because it's so clearly, I mean,
Yeah.
anyone who supports terrorists and who is like aware that they're supporting terrorists. I have compassion for people who genuinely don't know that they've been brainwashed by terrorists, because I think, like, you know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
They see videos of dead children. They hear 50,000 deaths.
Exactly.
Like, we're humans.
Yes.
Like, we think more with our heart than we do with our brain. And I get it. They see that and they're like, oh my God, whoever's doing this is bad. But they don't realize they're being manipulated. They don't realize that there were more deaths in Nazi Germany than there were in America or in Great Britain.
Right.
It doesn't mean that the side that has more deaths is the good side.
Right. And in any war...
It just means that we're winning the war.
Yes.
And to add to that, Hamas is putting their own civilians at risk. They're sending their women and children to go do military operations.
Yeah, and then
they're
specifically
keeping them above ground when they're underneath tunnels.
Right.
They're putting their tunnels underneath schools.
Yes, very purposefully, so that then they can claim, look at evil IDF hitting the school, when in fact the school has been made into a Hamas center point.
Yeah. I mean, is it a school or is it a terrorist compound?
Yes, exactly.
The first time we got shot at was, we were in an UNRWA school. Again, we had to go in for, this is a different one, but a long story. We had to go into that school. And the first place we got shot at was inside that school, from a Red Crescent building. Red Crescent is like the Red Cross. Red Crescent Hospital. Hamas was shooting at us from the hospital. So they turned the hospital into a military base.
What always kind of baffles me is the fact that it's so clear that, you know, Hamas is a death cult. And
oh my God.
Judeo-Christian values are so paramount are so clear about the value of human life. The value of human life in Christianity and Judaism is at the forefront of everything. We like, you know, it's ingrained in our DNA. And so going up against a society that not only like promotes terror and teaches terror to its children, but also teaches them that their own life isn't as valuable as the lives of the enemy. In this case, it's Jews, that they can take with that life. So you know what?
Can I show you something that I realized I'm pretty sure I have in my backpack? I can grab it right here.
Please, yes.
This is the journal I kept throughout my entire time in Gaza. And we took this photo that was we took this photo that I'll show you in a second, that was in a frame in the house, like same way you have beautiful family photos and portraits. It was a portrait in the house. And this wasn't the first time we saw it. This was many times. Many times we saw these types of photos in the home.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
That is, okay, I need to show this to...
Yeah.
Like, this is a child of, what,
3, 4, 5, 5 at the most.
A 3-year-old child. You found this photo. It was, in a frame. In
a frame, in a home in Gaza. And that's not like, oh my God, it's the only one I found, I should take it home. It was in almost every single home we went into.
I can't believe I'm holding this. This is insane.
Yeah, that was from Gaza.
I mean,
it's clearly...
Have you posted this?
Like, it's clearly glorifying. Like,
I've never seen anything like this.
I know.
Eli, this is actually mind-blowing.
I pass that out every time I give a speech. I've never posted it. I never actually thought about posting it until you said that, even though it's so obvious.
Please don't post it until this podcast comes out in just a few days.
Yeah, we can easily do that.
We would be honored to be, I'm like, this is...
I haven't posted for a year and a half, 2 years from now. I can wait a few more days.
I mean, you can see the markings on the back of exactly when it was taken. This is a real photograph that you found in the homes of this. They say that a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is it right here.
That's it.
Like, that is absolutely insane.
I know. It's so sad.
I'm
sad
really speechless, but this is like rendering me speechless.
I wish I had
Thank you for sharing that.
The Mein Kampf book as well.
You didn't take it?
We gave it to the IDF so they could use it as evidence.
And so you're carrying this around with you every day as a reminder to know, because probably the loud minority, you know, especially when they're protesting in the streets and they're, you know, spreading these lies and this nonsense of the narrative that you guys are somehow evil ones or the wrongdoers in a situation where to teach a young, tiny child before they even have the cognitive abilities to understand the world that killing Jews is the most important thing in their life. I mean, you're talking about such like ingrained evil that it's like, how do you even eradicate that level of evil in a society? As long as Hamas is in control,
it's impossible.
It's impossible.
100%.
There is no way.
You need to change the education system. UNRWA is Hamas's best friend. They clearly are. I mean, Mein Kampf was in an UNRWA school. It wasn't in a Hamas private school. It was in an UNRWA school.
Sorry, I'm not familiar. What's UNRWA?
UNRWA is the It's basically the United Nations organization that helps the Palestinians in both Gaza and the West Bank.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So that's their only job, is to take care of them. It's the only UN organization for refugees, or it's for Palestinian refugees, but it's the only UN organization. You know, there's numerous refugee organizations. Well, not numerous. There's two. One is for every refugee in the world, and the other one is for just Palestinian refugees.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So UNRWA is the one that's just for Palestinian refugees. It's funded by the United Nations, by our tax dollars, and inside that school is where we found we found Mein Kampf. So when you have UNRWA teaching Palestinian children to hate Jews, not to hate Israel, to hate Jews, and then you have in the home this photo where they're teaching their kids to carry a gun and to, be in between rockets and to be glorifying the war this way. And it's in many homes and buildings. It's not just in one.
Yeah.
It's clear as day. We have to go in. There's no future for peace in the Middle East between Israel and Gaza, the West Bank, Palestine, wherever. There's no future with Hamas in power and without a completely different education system.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And it's so, thank you so much for sharing that, because it's just remarkable when you can see something, hold it in your own hands, that is a physical representation of what's clearly happening.
Yeah.
And I've seen, in my own home country of Australia and even my own hometown of Sydney, the marches across the bridge, which is, our iconic symbol of Australian pride and these people who are protesting for the terrorists. They literally have those Hamas banners and the flags, and this is in Australia. I've seen it in America. It's absolutely outrageous.
When I was running the marathon, carrying an Israel flag, I don't mind if someone screams Free Palestine or something like that, because whatever, it's at least masked in more peacefulness and you just want freedom. But when you have someone yell, "Long live Hamas, God bless Hamas," you are asking, that is a terrorist organization. Yes. You want them to continue massacring Jews.
Yes.
You want the death of me. I'd stopped in my place. I looked back at him. I was jaw dropped that he would say something like that so loudly and clearly.
Do you think that if more people understood that Hamas is a terrorist organization, do you think that there's some sort of misunderstanding that the elected authority in Gaza is a terrorist organization? They my understanding is, I don't know how many years ago, but it was quite a few years ago, the last election that they had, that they actually voted in Hamas. Yeah,
so they voted in Hamas back in 2006 or 7, I want to say.
Okay. So for the last 20 years.
And since then, there's never been another election, because Hamas killed the entire, they basically killed their opponent, the rival parties, and they had complete control of the population. They never had another vote. So the civilians couldn't even vote for someone else if they wanted to. There are a lot of civilians that are scared, but they have no ability to overthrow it. It's funny, I was on a hike and we were talking to someone else, and some little 5-year-old was with his mother, and I was talking to her about it, and he starts asking these questions. So we start explaining this conflict in a very simple way, and he goes, well, then why don't the people just get together and overthrow the bad guys, Hamas. And I was like, that's, it's so obvious. Will's a genius. It took a 5-year-old to figure it out.
Yes.
It's not that rocket science.
Exactly. Yes. Sometimes the simplest answer is exactly like, what, so 100%. You're telling me that the bad guys, the terrorists, like, you know,
there's potentially less of them, or who knows. And if you want freedom and peace, then just overthrow them.
Yeah, so simple.
Like, I know you're not armed, but if there's so many more of you, if there are, then you guys should be able to get together and overthrow them. If there's not more, then clearly there's a problem.
Yeah, wow. But obviously, I mean, gosh, it's just so, like, the endless kind of deep dives that you can do when you sort of like zoom out and you can see, like, in a macro sense, what's happening, and then you can see the effect that that's having on like the soul of the world and the global mindset towards Israel. It's so backwards. I mean, like it's trying to explain that up is down and down is up.
Yeah.
And how do you do that to people that are committed to, like, do you think that the root of anti-Semitism just is such an ancient hatred and runs so deep and for so long that even like, what do you think it's going to take to change?
It takes numerous things. One, I do think that there's a big cloud over it all as long as the war is continuing and going on. There's going to be a big cloud over it all. It puts attention on it. It puts everything. People have we're like goldfish. We have short-term memories. Eventually, the war is either going to keep going on and it's not going to be cool anymore to talk about and people are going to forget, or they... or the war ends and it just, people forget about it. Like, that could happen, but realistically, until the war ends, it's still going to be somewhat top of mind in the news. People are going to be super angry. And there is that part that's anti-Zionism, and then it's just not going to be a cool thing anymore. But there's also a very deep sense of anti-Semitism, and it's being masked as different things. So in all of history, it's not the first time anti-Semitism has happened. I mean, look at the Holocaust, look at the Spanish Inquisition. It's always masked in different things. And the Jews are in power. The Jews are controlling the media. We're doing a terrible job at controlling the media right now. An awful job at controlling the media.
The insane statement. Yes.
But it's masked in so many ways. And right now the biggest one is anti-Zionism. So when the war ends, you'll have a quieting of it. But I think what the war really did was bring it to the surface, bring all these sentiments that so many people had to the surface.
And give them almost like societal permission to vent that hatred publicly. Yeah, that's really what I've witnessed is that I guess what's so...
They can use their anti-Semitism and say, no, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm anti-Zionist, I'm going to attack these people because they're supportive of Israel and Zionism, and they're supportive of killing people. So that's why I'm attacking him, not because he's Jewish.
Of course, yes. What you're saying is, it's literally biblical, like wolves. Is it wolves? Wolves. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Yeah. That is really what it's being presented. It's being presented as, this altruistic, we care about the children, but it's actually the exact opposite. And it's being like sold to the masses as, we are the ones who care, but in actual fact,
if you look at the events that are being thrown, like the protests, there's so much hate and anger and violence in these anti-Zionist, pro-Palestine protests. They get so violent all the time. And you look at the Jewish, you look at the Israeli ones, they're so peaceful. They're so peaceful.
Yeah.
And it's just clear as day right there.
Yes, well, of course, because the foundation of Israeli culture is peace.
Yeah.
The foundation of American society is peace.
Yeah.
The only successful societies that have ever existed, their foundation has to be, they have to value human life and 100%. Peace.
Yep.
There is no other way. It doesn't work.
Yep.
And so, if only people understood that their vote for the terrorists was a vote against themselves. I think that, I could go into the fact that it's Queers for Palestine is quite literally the most insane
It's the most
oxymoron.
idiotic thing
It
of
doesn't
all
make
time.
it's chickens for KFC.
Yeah,
It's-
turkeys for Thanksgiving.
Exactly. It's absolutely wild that
Yeah.
people can like the alignment that people have with something that is only set to destroy them as soon as it's taken care of the Jews, so to speak. It's like every minority, every religion that isn't extremist Islam is next on the list.
Yeah.
And it's only, so the people that have brainwashed to then become megaphones for the terrorists, which, unfortunately has been going on in every Western society since October 7th.
It's crazy.
They don't realize they're chanting for their own demise.
Yep.
And I think it will only take like what I believe is a mass spiritual awakening that people realize they've been deceived, because the enemy is very good at deception,
Do you think we're
confusion.
close to a mass spiritual awakening? What do you think it would require?
I
to
pray
get to
every
there?
day that we are.
What requires that out of curiosity in Christianity or in your belief in general?
I would love nothing more than for God. Only God has the power to,
for sure, God has so much
decide
power.
when and how, but to implement in every individual soul that something wakes up inside of them, which they realize that God is real and that God is the only real thing, and that light and darkness have been at war since the beginning of time, and we're in a spiritual war currently, and it's being played out in real wars on the ground, and it's also being played out in the narrativized war of the media, and our mainstream media, apart from Fox News, which do actually a brilliant job, I think, of portraying what's 100%. Actually happening, but all the other.
And I think your friend Erin Mullen, shout out Erin Mullen, if you're listening.
Beautiful Erin, who is very different, and she's a literal hero. I love her with my whole soul. And she's out there every day on the front lines of this spiritual war, fighting for the light, fighting for the truth against, so many people that maybe at some point went into a career in journalism and had that integrity and had that, wanting to make the world a better place. But somewhere along the way were either brainwashed themselves or, like your friends at CNN, they don't feel, I guess, empowered or safe enough to be outspoken because they don't want to lose their jobs. And I understand that, we live in a capitalist society, and it's no judgment on that. If you're taking care of your family and your livelihood is being threatened, if you don't go with the agenda, which is anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, if that's not your narrative, and you're going to get fired, which has happened and continues to happen in these, so that's why it's like
Qatar funds it all too. So.
Yes.
So say that.
To answer your question, what do I think it's going to take? I think it's going to take a move of God and enough individual souls waking up to the fact that they've been deceived, and then grouping together and having conversations like this in private and in public spaces that. The veil is lifted, because I feel like right now, I think it's very optimistic that you think it's a silent majority, and I'd love to believe that, but it doesn't look that way in terms of if you just look at, the statistic, like for instance, in any war, why are there not protests in the street about any war and actual genocides happening? Like there's an actual genocide happening right now in Nigeria that Christians are being killed by the extreme Islamists. I've got to practice saying the Islamist extreme. You know what I mean?
Islamic extremists.
Islamic extremist. It's a tongue twister for me, but they are being brutally murdered every day for just being Christian. There have not been any protests. Not any protests.
Look at the Uyghur Muslims in China.
Exactly. And Sudan, saying an actual genocide. If genocide was the issue, which it was never a genocide in Gaza. I mean,
the population has grown in Gaza since we gave them independence. A genocide is the opposite. If you look at genocide in Nazi Germany, Germany eradicated 50% of the world's Jewish population. If you look at the Armenian genocide, I think it was 70 or 80% of the population was killed. So it was of the Armenian population. That's 2 million people. if you look at Gaza, even with the most extreme numbers in the war, you're looking at like 70 or 80,000 that I've heard, out of a population of 2 million in Gaza. That's like a couple percent.
Yeah.
That's like 3%. That's not, and I hate to get into those numbers, but that's not 10%, it's not 20%, it's not 30%,
That's
not 50%.
Yeah.
We're looking at completely different numbers.
Yeah.
And the population has grown since the start of,
Yes.
Since they originally got their
If
independence.
you look at the facts,
Israel is so bad at genociding, and Jews are so bad at controlling the media.
That's
if
hilarious.
that's what you think.
Like, literally.
Great accountants, great lawyers, terrible at controlling the media, terrible at genociding. If that was our intention.
Truly, exactly. That's so well said. Exactly. If the goal was to commit a genocide, they would have done not just like an appalling job, but every single opportunity, like you were talking about, that a perceived civilian innocent life was like, I've seen, these videos of the ambulance drivers on October 7th that were actually saving the terrorists' lives. Like, I mean, it's
do you know that Sinwar?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yahya Sinwar was the orchestrator of October 7th attack. He was the head of Hamas in Gaza, especially the military side of it. He was the brainchild, the everything. He was the Osama bin Laden, right? Mm-hmm. Israel released him in a prisoner hostage exchange back in like 10 years ago. It's the I think, or maybe more, Gilad Shalit exchange. It was one Israeli prisoner one Israeli hostage or prisoner, call it, because he was a soldier, for 1,200 Gazan prisoners. That's how little they value the lives of their people, is that they gave 1,200. We needed 1,200 of them to account for one of ours. And it's not that we don't value them. And if they wanted a one-for-one exchange, we would have done it. But then one of those 1,200 prisoners was this man named Yahya Sinwar. He did that. He orchestrated October 7th.
Yeah.
What happened when Yahya Sinwar was in captivity? He wasn't raped. He wasn't abused. He wasn't anything. He had brain cancer, and Israeli surgeons operated on him and saved his life. And afterwards, he told the surgeon, if I ever get released, I'm still going to kill you guys. I still hate you guys.
What?
He gets released so that we can have our person back. And 10 years later, he orchestrates October 7th and kills everybody.
He declared that to the doctors that saved his life?
Yeah, he got brain surgery and was saved from brain cancer.
And he said,
by Israeli doctors with Israeli taxpayer money, and then orchestrated October 7th.
That is so insane.
That's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and quite literally.
It's not as simple as like saving someone on like saving a terrorist so that you can get intelligence out of him. We got all the intelligence we needed out of him. He had freaking brain cancer.
Yeah.
We could have let him die if we wanted to and say, hey, it was brain cancer. We saved his life because we value life, and we are holding prisoners, and we're taking care of our prisoners.
Yeah, and that value of human life, it like should and will never change. It's fundamental to Judeo-Christian values. It is never going to shift.
Totally.
But it being used against us is something that I think, like for instance, I mean, how many hostages were on that day?
251.
On the day that they were released, how many?
Just now?
Yes.
20.
20 live hostages
were released a month ago.
And I know of like throughout the 2 years, some were released during that time. But what percentage of the hostages taken on October 7th survived?
Probably about 50%. It's actually a good question. I should know the answer to that, but I think it's a little over 50%, 50 to 60%.
And so we're talking,
I could be totally wrong.
125 roughly lives of this entire war that obviously, the world at large is pretending to be so concerned about the innocents that are being lost. But Israel cares so much about those 100 plus, give or take, lives that they are willing to sacrifice. How many IDF soldiers have given up their life in this war? It's like it's so backwards.
Over 900 soldiers have died.
Over 900 soldiers
have died since the start of October 7th.
That is just...
And you'd add another 52 or 54, I want to say, that have committed suicide. So call it 1,000 soldiers.
That is just horrifying. And when you think about the fact that every single one of those lives, like that didn't need to be taken, but no lives, including any casualties of the Gazan deaths, none of that had to happen.
None of this had to happen
if the terrorists hadn't attacked.
October 7th.
Yeah. So it's like if you're gonna eradicate the rotten root that is literally responsible for, you know, all of these deaths, and you're going to actually like prevent innocent people, like all of those IDF soldiers, like all the innocent hostages, not to mention the 1,200 that were viciously and violently murdered. If you're actually going to prevent that from happening, there's no way to let Hamas continue to be in power. There is literally, it's impossible.
Impossible.
So the calling of, like, you know.
So that's why if for example, we have our hostages now, the live ones. There's I believe 7 more bodies that haven't been returned yet, which is against the ceasefire agreement. So Israel in theory could go because the ceasefire agreement's been broken already a month ago. But Israel wants to go and still eliminate Hamas. It's very difficult to do that. We can go and just bomb the hell out of the places that Hamas is at, but that puts the Gazan population
and because
risk.
Israel values human life so much, they're not going to do that. We may have to go in militarily again. I hope not, but we may have to. Like, you personally, would you?
If they called me, I would go for sure.
Wow.
But if we do have to go, at least for me personally, I wouldn't go, and I don't think Israel should go if it were to just bring back bodies of soldiers. And I don't think they would go either, because you're not going to, of hostages. I don't want to risk my life to bring back a dead body where you're going to go in and you're going to not bring 7 bodies back, but you're going to bring 7 bodies plus 20 dead soldiers back. Yeah. That's not worth it. But if you're going in to eradicate Hamas and to eliminate them of power, because if you look at how did World War II end? Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany surrendered, agreed to demilitarization, completely gave up. Now the question is, that's a government, a country. Can a terrorist organization do that, especially if they don't care about their people? That's the big question. But I'm not willing to say, oh, well, they're a terrorist organization, so we should just let them. Absolutely not. We have to keep fighting, keep attacking, keep pressing, because if we set the precedent that a terrorist organization get away with whatever the hell they want and not demilitarize just because they're a terrorist organization, what better can we expect of them? Then we're setting the grounds for every terrorist organization to do whatever they want, just like we've been seeing that's happening, that they can hide under tunnels, that they can use their civilians to boost numbers, to gain sympathy around the world. So Israel needs to go in to completely eradicate Hamas, so that the Gazans can have more freedom, so that Israelis can live freely, so that the entire region is freed of this rotten, terrible, disgusting, criminal, evil, terrorist organization. And until that organization is completely out of power, it's not going to work. Nazi Germany wasn't, Germany isn't what it is today if Nazi Germany was allowed to stay militarized and stay kind of in power. You needed to eliminate Nazi Germany.
America isn't what it is today if Nazi Germany wasn't demilitarized.
Exactly. And Imperial Japan, which they were, and that's my favorite comparison, because they were people, fighters, who saw the emperor as literally God and the emperor. So the same way that children are raised seeing Hamas as this the epitome of everything. They don't know a world without Hamas. Japanese fighters didn't know a world without the emperor as being the emperor and God. So it's a very direct correlation. But the second you demilitarize them, the second you completely strip them of power, the second you completely change their education system, then there's hope.
That is a tall order. To even...
But it's we can't accept anything less.
Of course, no.
Because the second you do, it's not complete victory. And that you're not going to actually see long term.
Yeah, that children
change.
like the one in that picture that you shared
Yep.
are not going to be taught that the
Totally.
most important purpose of their life is to kill Jews. And until that happens, like from the very beginning of the Palestinians' lives,
Yep.
there won't be a free Palestine because the innocent Palestinians don't get to grow up as innocent people because their minds are corrupted by
Completely
the
corrupted by
Islamic extremists.
Exactly. You got it this time.
Yes!
Let's go.
It only took like 8 times, but literally, like it's so interesting because in the battle of good versus evil, ultimately, if evil is not exposed and is just allowed to run rampant, everything that every human, whether a deep believer in God or not, the very breath in their lungs, whether they know that it was given to them by God or not, is going to be taken away.
Yep.
There is no more society. There is no more goodness. There is no more anything.
Yep.
And if people enjoy being alive and they enjoy their lives, whatever it is they look like, they enjoy their freedom. I mean, like the value of freedom is obviously priceless to anyone who's had it taken away and knows the value of freedom. But you don't need to have your freedoms taken away to know what it's like. Like if people understood that they were fighting for having their own freedoms taken away, like the insanity of literally living in a country that you're free to protest. And that's part of, in America, we have the Constitution. Australia doesn't have a constitution, but most of the time people are allowed to freely protest. The right to do that would be taken away if Hamas, for instance, who you're protesting for, would be in power. Not only would your a freedom to protest, your freedom to wear clothes, to not be covered in a hijab, to be, able to not be an Islamist.
Yep.
I'm struggling again, but to not be an
Islamic extremist.
Islamic is not to, yes, because like ultimately you're given a choice to convert to Islam, to die, or what's the third choice? It's not good.
Convert to Islam, die, or pay some like high taxes and be a second-class citizen.
Okay, so that's
none of them are fair.
No, that's a terrible set of choices.
Yeah.
So, like for every person, whether they believe in a Judeo-Christian way of life or any way of like their freedoms, that just their right to exist and be like living in their own free world, to be able to wear whatever they want, to be able to believe whatever they want, that's under threat if Hamas isn't eradicated. Because
100%.
ultimately Hamas is not going to end that's never going to happen. Thank you, Lord. That's never going to happen. But
Amen.
What they want to happen is for it to be Israel to be eradicated. And then as soon as that did happen, they'd be on to America.
Yeah.
They chant death to America.
Totally.
And
also people call Israel colonizers, but they're looking at this micro scale of the picture where they see Israel as coming in to one, claim and take a land that they think isn't theirs and that we took over, but is also rightfully ours for thousands of years. In the Bible is rightfully ours, but even if not in the Bible, we've been there for thousands of years. But in addition, they're saying like, oh, Israel is the bad guy and look how small and weak and everything Gaza is. But if you zoom out in the Middle East, there are like 50-something Muslim countries in the world. There's not allowed to be one Jewish country. If you look at the macro scale of the Middle East, it's this massive blob of Islamic nations. I don't even want to call it Islamic extremism because most Islamic countries are just whatever, Muslims. And a tiny little speck, that's colonialism. So really, it's the whole Gaza and Palestine, should be one big country, is just a mask of an extension of Islamic colonialism so they can have the entire Middle East.
Right.
And
like
that's the big
50
picture.
countries
But everyone's
isn't
zooming in
enough
on
for them.
Israel versus Gaza, when it's really Islamism. Like Iran, the Islamic Republic of, I don't even want to say Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Islamic regime, the Iranian against this little speck of Judas.
But
that's what it is.
But that, like, on the macro scale, that speck of that one Jewish state actually has so
And we're
much
stronger than them.
divine power. Yeah, but because
We've got on our
when
side.
you talked about the chosen people earlier, and I think just what I believe that is that Jewish people are so paramount in like the story of the Bible, and not only obviously the entire Old Testament.
Yeah.
But if Jesus is to return, which as a Christian obviously I believe that he is, it's imperative that Jews are like not just alive but thriving. Safe.
Yeah.
Like that is so anyone who claims to be a Christian and doesn't understand the importance of helping our Jewish brothers and sisters, to me is using the Lord's name in vain.
I want to also like add this hopefulness, because I know we've been talking about not even hopefulness, but like positivity, because I know we've been talking about all these bad things, but I think Jews, on one hand, while it's very scary and there's this aura of pre-Holocaust Nazi Germany, and there's this fear of being Jewish and anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism and all that. If you look at Judaism and the history of Jews, we're amongst the most powerful we've ever been in our history. We have the strongest country financially, like economically, technologically, militarily in the Middle East. We are the strongest country in the Middle East, and we're a tiny little speck because we have God on our side.
Yes, exactly.
Because we're a good people. We're driven by the right values. We have the energy, and God is literally on our side and wants us to exist and wants us to thrive. And while it seems like, and there's this doom and gloom that we're in the scariest, worst part, that's where I'm like, hell no, I'm proud to be Jewish. I'm raising the flag. We're strong. We're here. Don't cower. Don't be scared. We're the strongest we've ever been in so long. We have a country that can defend us. We have, no matter where you are, what in the world as a Jew, you can come to Israel and feel safe. And that's why I'm so proud to fight in the country. And that's why I'm so proud to raise the flag. Because while there's all these other fears happening in the world, Israel will protect the Jews, and a Holocaust will never happen again. What happened to my grandpa will never happen again.
Praise God.
Because we exist and we're stronger than ever.
Yes. So beautifully said. So beautifully said, Eli. And literally, like, thank God Israel exists as the, like, powerful nation that it
100%.
is. Thank God, because
100%.
the anti-Semitism boiling up in, society, like it's just a normal thing. It's not normal. It's pure evil, pure hatred. But if, God forbid, ever someone like Hitler could get into power, which, like, if that happens again, Israel is the only nation on the earth, the only safe place for Jews, no matter what, and they have the military capacity to defend themselves. The alignment between Israel and America, and
it's in America's interest.
Of course it is. I mean,
we're fighting a war that's defending on the West side. And Judeo-Christian values. So it drives me crazy when you see these people in Europe go arguing against us when we're literally defending the values that they believed in and were raised in.
Yes. Fighting for your own demise is the literal definition of insanity.
So
I mean, like,
fighting for your own demise is the literal definition of insanity. I love that.
I really just appreciate your wisdom and your courage more than anything. I mean, you're truly one of the most courageous people I've ever had the blessing of getting to sit and talk with. Like,
thank you. There's way more courageous people than me, but thank you.
It's remarkable though. Like you didn't need to. There was no obligation except a deep moral obligation within yourself
100%.
that you were called to do something incredibly heroic to defend actually the entire world. And it's nothing short of that.
I genuinely felt on October 7th, there are numerous reasons God puts us on this earth. And as we live, we get to discover them. And if you're listening closely, you'll realize and you'll step up to the plate. And I think we'd step up to the plate when we're needed. And on October 7th, when it hit, I knew with all my heart that this is one of the reasons God put me on this earth. to step up, to fight for the Jewish people, to fight for Israel, to fight for Western values. And it wasn't a matter of whether I go, it was how quickly can I get there. If I could teleport there, I would have teleported there. And I knew that this was a moment in Jewish history, in Israel's history, in world history that was generationally defining. Mm-hmm. World War II, World War I. There are moments in history that are defining the entire generation and are massive ripple effects for years to come. And I knew the story I wanted to tell my kids and my grandkids, and I knew how I wanted my impact to be. And I didn't want it to be a slight impact. I wanted it to be a fucking cannonball splash. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I need to get there as quickly as possible because this is why I need to be here. And this is what we want to do. And this is the story I want to tell. And this is just what has to happen.
Wow. That is so powerful. I mean, I believe that we have a destiny that is, designed by the most loving and omnipotent, sovereign God that sees everything, knows everything.
Amen.
Before
he has so much power.
He's all powerful.
Remember how I did the 251-mile race?
Yeah.
For the hostages?
Only 251 miles.
251 hostages in 4 days.
Yeah.
The final 50 miles, so 80 kilometers.
Yes.
I had a torn hamstring, which I didn't know at the time. I just thought I was in a lot of pain because it was 200 miles. I couldn't run 50 miles on a torn hamstring. Just like, I'm so positive the energy and the strength of the hostages got me there. Mm-hmm. And also, more importantly, God was the one pushing me forward. Because no human can run 80 kilometers, 50 miles on a torn hamstring.
Yes.
But God can push you there, for sure.
God
and
can
I fully
do
felt that energy.
Anything. And that's why I'm very, very confident that although it looks somewhat dismal in terms of globally right now of the mindset, I know that
he's on our side.
He is our side.
100%.
He is our side.
Yeah.
That's
we are his side.
Yes, exactly. We're all fighting for the same
100%.
thing. And every single person who isn't maybe not a believer yet has the potential, as long as they are still on this earth and have the gift of life, to become warriors for the light as well. That there are so many souls all over the world that haven't even been utilized by God yet for the purposes that they're going to live. Just like he had the purpose of your life. Just like he has that of mine and beautiful Aaron and like he has a grand design that ultimately.
And if you can channel into it and feel it. Oh my God.
And we know because the Bible tells us, and we know because fundamentally we feel it and we know it, that he is good, that good will always win over 100%. Evil, that light will always win over darkness,
100%.
And that ultimately truth is going to win over the lies.
100%.
Even if the lies are louder, even if they have, more people mimicking them and
100%.
amplifying them on their own little social media platforms, ultimately the truth has a power because it's divinely ordained. You cannot say a statement of truth and people who themselves aren't connected to God to not be able to feel it.
Yep.
That's why this mass deception, people are going to wake up from it. I have great faith that they will.
Mass deception. I like the way you put that.
Yeah, thank you. But I mean it's like and you have very loud voices, on both political sides, unfortunately, who are the master deceivers, who are doing a really good job in terms of their own growing their own platforms and spreading these lies. But ultimately, every single person, because we have a spark of the divine within every one of us, and we know when we hear something, and it sounds conspiratorial or untrue. Like we can feel it. If we choose to be committed to the truth and to love over hate and light over darkness, if we commit to that every single day, we grow more like him, our creator. That's what I believe.
100%.
So I feel very hopeful and at the same time like tentatively optimistic, because I think we're seeing essentially the book of Revelations playing out in front of our very eyes, and we were warned of this, and the wars and rumors of wars, it's happening right now. We are every sign of the end times is upon us, but it's not a bleak, doomful thing at all. It's literally like what I believe is going to be the beginning of the new earth, and where heaven is going to be here on earth.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there's also an awakening of spirituality that's happening. At least I'm seeing it on social media. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Forrest Frank.
Yeah, of course.
Forrest Frank.
He's incredibly challenging.
I'm a Jew, and I was listening to Forrest Frank inside Gaza.
That's beautiful.
My morning alarm clock is Good Day.
No way.
I swear to God.
That's so beautiful.
In Gaza, every morning I was getting woken up to a Christian artist.
I love that so much. He's the real deal.
Shout out to Forrest Frank if you hear this. I got it.
He's such a remarkable soul.
He's amazing.
I saw him at the Dove Awards last year, and his acceptance speech was literally like, my name is going to fade. You know, every artist, we're all here as Christian artists,
so
all going to fade, but the one name that's always going to remain is
God
Jesus.
God brought him here for a reason.
Yes.
God brought him here for a reason.
Yes.
I love his music, and I'm Jewish, but I still feel God in his music. I feel this energy. I feel this spirit. I feel this everything in his music.
Yes.
It's freaking amazing.
Yes, it is amazing.
I hope a Jew's allowed to listen to his music.
We have to dismantle like this notion that there's any difference between us. Like, I mean, there is absolutely no difference foundationally, fundamentally, and like within ourselves.
Totally.
And there will be a time that, you know, that is so clear that people, like, it's good versus evil, not Jew versus Christian versus Muslim. It's, you know, there's great, wonderful, kind-hearted, loving Muslims that we need to fight for too, because their lives under Islamic extremist control are as bleak and dismal as any of our lives are going to be. And if you really believe in like the value of human life, and if that means anything to you, then you have to be fighting for the good, because otherwise, like, you know, if you go into despair and nothing means anything, and you know it's all like you're literally giving away your life to the enemy,
100%.
And he'll take it. He doesn't care about you, but he'll take it
100%.
And he'll like, you know, use you as a puppet to spread his demonic agenda, and that's happening unfortunately all too much. So
100%.
yeah, I think it's really important that we have these conversations and that we shine light where we can, because that's the only way to expose the tricks.
Just keep shining light any way you can.
Yeah.
Like, any way you can, find a way to shine light, shine love. The more you can do it in social media, if you're running your race, if you're interacting with a stranger on the street, doing a random good deed, just shine light, shine love, and good is going to win over evil every time, as long as we keep doing that.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Eli.
Of course, I'm so happy we did this.
Thank you, me too.
Our first phone call was like an hour, and it was supposed to be like a 20-minute pre-podcast call.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God, we should have made this the podcast, but this was even better than that one.
Yay!